Hello, thank you for joining me today. We're going to be talking about spiral artery remodeling during pregnancy and what that means. So, in the uterus, we have a very well defined type of blood vessel called an artery that brings blood to and carries it away for oxygenation, specifically to these tissues, right? And it's interesting because what it does is it spirals as it approaches. And if you've ever seen an umbilical cord, it looks kind of like that. They're all over in the uterus. And they let out at the lining of the uterus. So for a woman who's menstruating during the last 3 days of the cycle, these arteries that are normally spurting out blood and taking it in for oxygenation are essentially closing themselves off to let the tissue there die so that it's no longer receiving any fresh blood. And as they close themselves off and the tissue dies, that's what causes premenstrual cramps, right? So what does this do during pregnancy? During pregnancy, what it looks like is these spiral arteries are creating what are called lacunae. They're maternal lakes of blood, meaning that they are on the maternal side of the placenta inside the uterus, and lakes of blood, meaning that they pool up all over the place for all the cotyledons, all of the little, they're not cells, but they're kind of like areas of the maternal side of the placenta. And they build up all of the blood there. So all of the spiralic arteries are spurting out blood underneath the placenta. And the placenta then processes it and takes it to the baby, filtering it, making it the baby's blood, right? That's how we don't have like any mixing of the mother and baby's blood during pregnancy unless some type of trauma happens or something, is wrong with the tissues, making them more fragile than they're intended to be, as is part of the embryonic blueprint. So what happens is these arteries are a certain size. They're just like a regular tube, right? When they are first formed, with the baby and the placenta and everything. And then at 12 weeks, and then again at 16 weeks, we have such a dramatic increase in blood supply, both for mom and baby, because there's so much growth happening, that these tubes need to remodel themselves. So they totally change shape. They go from looking like a tube to looking like a funnel, to looking like a flange, right? Like they have more of like this shape where they're letting out more surface area. They're relaxing more, which is what part of what relaxin is for relaxing blood vessels. It's very aptly named, makes it very easy to remember. And what this does is it allows for more blood flow, more exchange to be happening within the maternal lakes of blood. And we've noticed that if this doesn't happen, then you're way more likely to get things like preeclampsia, or pregnancy-induced hypertension. Or is it the other way around? Do you have preeclampsia or pregnancy-induced hypertension? I don't know. Is it the chicken before the egg? Let's figure that out. But what we do know is that women that have preeclampsia seem to not have the capacity for the blood vessels. Well, they have the capacity, right? But it just isn't happening for whatever reason. These blood vessels aren't remodeling. They're staying straight, which means that they have a really difficult time, accommodating the blood flow increase and just, the blood and the growth of the baby in general, for the duration of the pregnancy and during labor, which is what makes it so scary for a woman and a baby when that happens, because she's literally not able to accommodate the blood flow necessary, right? Which is also, again, part of the embryonic blueprint. So, what can we do to support these things is going to depend on each woman. You know, maybe a woman has emotional circumstances in her life that are causing a lot of things that would lead to hypertension. Maybe it's diet, maybe it's spiritual, maybe, you know, it's generational traumas. That's all going to vary so widely from woman to woman. And I think the important thing is just, you know, as any birth worker in any capacity, or just as a friend or a woman yourself, is just to understand that all of these things are just here for us to know and acknowledge in the physical, so that we can support them with all of the things that are available to us through our intuition, through our learned knowledge, through sisterhood with our midwives or friends and family, however that shows up. I think I've heard from a lot of people that have had preeclampsia that they felt very intense in different ways, right? But very intensely, like it was a spiritual, generational kind of issue for them. And that's why it was manifesting. So, interesting things to think about, and interesting things to know for sure, that we have these crazy little spirilic arteries just creating all of this support for life to happen, you know, in such a supported way. And when that isn't happening, it's important to maybe look at why and contemplate that. Or maybe you already know. I bet your intuition already does. Well, thank you for watching. That's all I have to say for this one. Mwah.